Good morning, everybody. It's Reed here. I'm here with another video in our 5-part video series showing you how to become a better seller on Amazon, how you can make more money, how you can have more fun, how you can enjoy selling on Amazon and be more successful than you ever thought possible. This is video number 4, and it represents the 4th big break that you'll need to make if you're going to be super successful on Amazon. Now, this particular video is groundbreaking. And I say that because what we're going to do is we're going to look under the hood and we're going to see what powers Amazon's ecosystem. That ecosystem is driven by an entire classification system that most sellers don't know anything about, and they certainly don't know how to use it. So we're going to give you the secret to understanding the classification system, nodes, item type keywords, and other super amazing things that nobody else is teaching and that are going to give you a huge advantage when you go list your products on Amazon. Now, one thing that you need to understand about this is that Amazon classifies and categorizes every single product, puts them into something that we call nodes. Every one of those nodes has an associated super keyword. This keyword is the most powerful keyword that you can use in Amazon's A9 algorithm because it's expecting that that keyword will be relevant to every single product in the node. And if you know what that keyword is, you can use it to your advantage. You can use it to propel your listings all the way up to number 1 on page 1 for the primary keywords that your listing is relevant to. You know, understanding Amazon's file system is critical to getting your products to page 1 for the most relevant keywords. And of course, that's always your goal. You want to get to page 1. Why is that? It's because page 1 is where all the action is. Did you know that 78% of click-throughs happen on page 1? This is true on Google, it's true on Amazon, almost every major platform. 78% of the time people click through something on page 1 and never scroll to the next page. They find what they're looking for on the first page of results. And that's why you need to be on page 1. That's because where most of the action is, that's where most of the money is, and that's where you want your product to be. But the question really then becomes, what is page 1 anyway? Well, you absolutely need to know that. What is page 1? Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to address that directly. But first, I want to ask you a couple of questions. We're going to play the what if game again like we did in the last video and say, what if you could identify the right super keyword and build your own branded product listing around that keyword? What if you could get A9, that's Amazon's algorithm, to see your products as maximum relevant and organically boosted above all the others in the node? That way your product would be seen above the others in all of the organic and the paid searches. What if you could dominate a niche by building an overwhelming presence on page 1 for your product's primary keyword? Well, what if you could do all these things? You know, Amazon may be a river, but it's also a tree. And that's how we're going to make those what ifs turn into realities for you. Now, in the first 3 training videos, we covered the urban mining hack that helps you to build a never-ending list of great product ideas. Those product ideas flow and flow and flow. It's almost like a fire hose. You start seeing them everywhere you go. And also in video number 2, we taught you how to run a complete financial analysis on each of the more products. Now, those more products are the ones that are on your smaller list that have more attached to them, right? They're more interesting. They're more profitable. They're newer, right? They're more recent. And of course, as part of running that complete financial analysis on each product, you need to know your numbers. And we shared with you a powerful spreadsheet that will help you to know your numbers and will do all the heavy lifting for you in the background while you just simply plug in the critical pieces of information that are necessary for you to be able to have the numbers calculated for you. Now, one of the things that we taught you then in the 3rd video was to see your products in terms of similarity, differentiation, and improvements, where similarity brings trust, where differentiation brings value, and where improvements add to that value and make it possible for you to be head and shoulders above your other competitors in terms of the quality and the recognition of your brand as being innovative and as having extreme value when they buy your products. So all of those things we've already covered in those first 3 training videos. And now we're going to build on those, because as you innovate, you're going to have effortless product launches. You're going to be able to rank your products. And when you say rank your products, what we really mean is get them into the best-selling status, where they're selling more than the other ones, where they're ranking higher in not just the organic searches, but in the top 100 lists. They're actually ranking well in Amazon's ecosystem. That's the actual result of all of these things that we've been talking about in these first 3 videos. Now, that's not where it ends, though. Now that you have an abundant supply of product ideas that just keeps on coming and you keep seeing them everywhere, and now that you're correctly analyzing the numbers on those and you're innovating on those product ideas to add huge value to your brand and prepare for a fast and a profitable launch, now it's time to learn how to identify the super keyword that Amazon will automatically assign to your product so that you can build your listing around it. This one practice can propel your products all the way to the head of the class. So hold on to your hat. We're going to dive into this right now. You know, when most untrained sellers create a product listing, they almost randomly select a node for their product, and they don't even realize what they're doing. They ignore the super keyword that's associated with that node most of the time. And of course, you won't make that mistake after watching this video. So, first, let's talk about Amazon's browse tree. What is a browse tree? Well, this is Amazon's product classification system. It's how their entire catalog, their entire ecosystem is organized. Every single product on Amazon is added into the browse tree at the time it's listed. So when you set up a listing, the product is actually added into the tree in a certain place. And you need to understand how that happens and why it happens and how you can take advantage of that fact. Now, the browse tree itself is made of departments, which are kind of like, think of them as trunks on a tree, right? They're made of categories, which are like the major limbs coming off of the tree trunks. They have subcategories, and those are the minor limbs or the smaller limbs that come off of the major limbs. And then underneath that, they have niches and they have nodes. And those niches are like the small branches or twigs almost that come off of the minor limbs. And the nodes are the leaves. Now, if you're going to understand Amazon's browse tree, you need to understand, first of all, that this is what it looks like. Okay? Now here you can see the trunk, which is like the departments, and you can see the major limbs, which is like the categories. You can see the minor limbs, which is like the subcategories, and so forth, all the way down to the nodes. Now, in a browse tree, what that means is that inside of it, the products live in the nodes. They don't live in the branches. They don't live in the trunks. If there's a product out there, it's classified in a node, just like a leaf on the end of a tree. Now, here's what I want to show you about this. If you have a browse tree and you have a department, let's say, automotive as an example. Let's use automotive department as an example, okay? And let's say that out on the end of the node in automotive is a baby mirror, okay? The kind of mirror that you can put up on your windshield or close to your rearview mirror that allows you to see your baby. Or maybe it's the kind of mirror that you can use to watch your baby while the baby's in a car seat. You put it on the seat behind the car seat, and then through your rearview mirror, you can see what's going on with your baby while you're driving. Okay, that's in automotive because it goes in a car. But you know what else that is? That's also in baby, because it's a product that's used with babies. Well, so that node for that kind of car seat mirror may very well actually have more than one path to get to it. And that path, coming up one of the trunks in automotive and coming up the other trunk in baby, will merge at the node. So in other words, any given node may have more than one path that gets to it. Now, that can be a little bit confusing to people who are new to this, but if you think about it, it's a good thing if you have multiple paths getting to a node, because that means that if you list a product in that node, that product can have more exposure inside of more places on Amazon. So that's not a bad thing. In fact, that's one of the things that we actually look for when choosing a node to put our product in when it's time to list that product. Now, another thing about the browse tree is that in addition to every product being added to at least one node, and every particular node has potentially multiple paths that lead to it, there's something else about a node that becomes critical to understand, and that is that each node has a super keyword called an item type keyword that's associated with it. The item type keyword that we're going to call the ITK is a specific word. It can be 1 or 2 or even 3 or 4 words long, so it actually kind of resembles a phrase much of the time. But that particular super keyword, that item type keyword, is critical to understanding the browse tree because every single node has one attached to it. And no node shares a super keyword or an item type keyword with any other node. It's one-to-one. Every node has one ITK, and every ITK has one node. In fact, the ITK is synonymous with the node. In Amazon's ecosystem, if you're going to put a product into a node, there is one and only one ITK that is assigned to it, okay? That ITK should be a relevant word to every product in that node. Now, in some nodes, this is obvious, but in others, it's not obvious. Okay? So it becomes our goal then to find the ITK. And there are several ways that you can find the ITK associated with the node that you intend to put your product in. One of those ways is to use the browse tree itself. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you in just a moment. The other ways are to use the Download an Inventory File widget located in your Seller Central account. And the third way is to use the Add a Product widget, also located in your Seller Central account. Now, I'm going to demonstrate those for you right now, but as I do that, I want you to keep in mind that what we're really doing is we're trying to identify the node that has the best relevancy, the best match to your product. And when we do that, we're going to know then what the best keyword is for your product. All right, so let's cut to the desktop view, and then when we get back to these slides, we're going to start building on this concept in ways that are going to blow your mind. Okay, here we are inside of Seller Central, where you can go see that there is a little widget here called Add Products via Upload. You can find this by going to Inventory and then scrolling down here to Add Products via Upload. There's a similar widget in a different place where you go to add a product. But I like this one a little bit better. You can explore both, but this one gives me a little bit more flexibility on some things. I'm going to show you why I use this particular one in just a moment. But if you go there, then it will open up this particular page right here. And what you can do from here, in addition to some other things like upload inventory files and monitor the status of your uploads, you can go here to type in some information about the kind of product that you're interested in selling. And then this little widget will help to determine what the potential keywords are, item type keywords that will actually match the product. So in this case, I'm going to select teether. This is, of course, something that an infant or a baby would use. And so you can see right here that we have teethers as one of the options that shows up. Now, this particular one is in toys and games. That's the trunk. In other words, that's the department. Baby and toddler toys is the category. And of course, once you see that, then you see that there is a node called teethers. Now, this particular node, the way that this is set up is that there are no subcategories, there are no niches or anything like that. It just goes trunk, category, node. Now, you can also see here that baby products is a trunk, that's a department. And then baby and toddler toys is a category. Now you'll notice that baby and toddler toys is a category in two different trees. It's in the toys and games trunk, and it's also in the baby products trunk. In other words, two different departments. You got one shared branch that is a category. Of course, this is for teethers. Now, here you see also baby products as the department. Baby care is a different branch, so that's a category. Pacifiers, teethers, and teething relief is the subcategory, and then teethers is the node. Now, what's the difference between this node that says teethers, this node that says teethers, and this node that says teethers? I'll tell you, these are all the same node. This is one node. It just happens to have 3 different paths that you can take to get to it. Okay? So there are 2 departments, and inside of the baby department, baby products department, then there are 2 different paths that you can take to get to that node. If you remember the trees that I showed you earlier, sometimes they will share a node, but even sometimes within a particular tree, a node could be accessed by 2 different paths. In other words, 2 different categories or subcategories that'll get you to that node. So here's what you do is you'll hit select, and you see that the teether classification right here is teethers, and then the field name item type keyword shows up. This gives you the value. The value is baby-teethers-toys. In other words, baby teether toys. That is the item type keyword that is associated with this particular node. If you're going to sell a teether, you want to have baby teether toys prominently all over the place. Now, that's if you select this particular path to get to the product. Now, what if I select this path to get to the node, to get to the product node? Well, I'm going to select that, and guess what? Nothing else shows up. It's the same value down here. It's the same item type keyword. Remember, I told you that every node has one item type keyword that is associated with it, unless, and there are some few exceptions to that, unless there are different variations within the node, like, shoes might have women's shoes, or might have men's shoes, or might have kids' shoes. So sometimes there would be a modifier that goes along with the product classification. And in a case like that, then there might be one item type keyword, but it's associated with a particular modifier that goes with the product. So women's or men's, especially in clothing and shoes and watches and things like that. But for the most part, there's one item type keyword that goes with one node. And so if I'm going to select this path right here, then it's the same item type keyword. Now, what if I'm talking about a teether that's really more of a toothbrush? It's something that kids can use for, toothbrushes, infant dental care, and so forth. Well, you see toothbrushes for baby care, toothbrushes for infants, so I could look at this one too. Just for fun, I will remove that, and let's take a look at toothbrushes. You can see that baby toothbrushes is the item type keyword here. It's the same for this one. 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 And it's the same for this one. So this particular node has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different paths that get to it. So this is a very active node that has lots of different applications. Toothbrushes for infants. It comes from health and household. It comes from beauty and personal care. It comes from baby products. All 3 of these departments. And looks like health and household has a couple of different paths to get to it. And actually, here's another one. Health and household has 3 different paths. Beauty and personal care has this one and this one. So there are 2 with beauty and personal care. And then there's only just 1 in baby products. So in other words, if you select this item type keyword, toothbrushes, baby toothbrushes, if you select this item type keyword and this node for your product, when you set up your product, then at that point, your product will be seen as relevant in all those departments, in all those paths, and this item type keyword here, baby toothbrushes, needs to be prominent all throughout your listing so that your product will be seen as relevant by the A9 search engine. Now, I want to show you something else really cool about this whole thing, and that is, if you go look at the actual browse tree guides, which you can download from Amazon, okay? In fact, you can download them by going here and seeing where it says in certain product categories. If you go here, or if you go into the help menus, for example, and type browse tree guide, you can find the browse tree guide. So here, I'll show you as an example here. Just type in browse tree guide, and over here classify your products using browse tree guides. And you can see in here that if you want to use a browse tree guide, you go to inventory file templates, and you see right here are different file templates. But if you scroll down, you're going to see browse tree guides. And here's automotive and power sports. Here's baby. Here's beauty. Here's books, cell phones and accessories. Every department has a browse tree guide, and every browse tree guide contains all of the different nodes for that particular department. Okay, so if what you want to do ultimately is classify a product, and you want to find the right node, you want to find the right item type keyword, then you can use this widget as a quick and dirty way to go find that item type keyword. But there's another thing I want to show you, and that's this. This is my global browse tree guide. So what I've done is I've essentially aggregated all of the browse trees and put them into one document here for me. So I went ahead and typed in the word teether in the search box here inside of Google Drive. And it found 10 instances of this. Now you can see baby products, baby and toddler toys, teether. This is the node right here, teethers, and it shows you the path, baby products, then baby and toddler toys, then teethers. It gives you the node ID. There is an actual number associated with that node, and that's one of the ways that you can verify that this is going to be the exact same node as some other node that might have an item type keyword that's similar. So baby teether toys is our ITK. Now I'm going to go look at other ones. You'll notice down here that inside of baby products, baby care, pacifiers, teethers, and teething relief, this is not a node. This right here is a path, and underneath that path, in other words, this is a trunk, this is a category and a subcategory, and inside of this subcategory you see here are the nodes listed. And of these nodes that are listed, this one right here that says baby teether toys has the same node number. It's right here, 166.861.1011. You can see that that has the same node number as this, 166.861.1011. So therefore, it is the same node. It's just in a different path to get there. And you can keep looking by scrolling through the results up here, and this will take you to the toys and games, baby and toddler toys, then teethers, and that, of course, shows you the same item type keyword, baby teether toys. Now, a word about this, there's a dash in between the baby and the teether and the toys. That dash is necessary when you're using flat files, in other words, inventory files that you're uploading lots and lots of products at once. I use those. Most professional sellers use those. But when you're just starting out, then you don't really need to use that. And you will probably just use the word baby teether toys. Don't use the dashes. You only use the dashes in a certain place in an inventory file. Other than that, you don't use the dashes. This is one keyword, baby teether toys without dashes. And you'll use that in your listings, and you'll want to focus your listings on that particular set of words. This is one term. This is one keyword. It consists of 3 different words in this order, exactly like that. Baby teether toys. Now, a minute ago, I think we looked at infant toothbrushes, right? Which came up as one of the potential items here when we typed in teether. Right back to our search, you see that we have toothbrushes right here, baby toothbrushes, and so forth. So if you select this, you can see baby-toothbrushes is the value. What you can do also is you can come back to the master list here and go baby-toothbrushes, and you'll see that it finds item type keyword baby toothbrushes, and it'll tell you this comes in baby products, baby care, health, toothbrushes, and it's found 6 of these. Here's another one, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one, and here's another one. So all of those 6 that we found using the tool are also available for your scrolling and looking up over here in the master list. So you'll get the same results no matter if you're using that or if you're using this. Here's one reason why I did this, though. did this because I like to see what other close nodes might be available. So here we are talking about baby toothbrushes, right? Well, there's also baby training toothpaste, okay? And there's also other things that might be relevant to babies, or it might give me some other ideas about some things. Now, one other thing that you might see is anesthetic oral rinses or antiseptic oral rinses. This one has 2 item type keywords associated with it. This is very rare. In a case like this, you'll choose one of these when you go create your listing, but you can create the listing around both anesthetic and antiseptic oral rinses. You can include both of these prominently in your listing, and it will work for this particular keyword. So, in short, if you're browsing through and taking a look at these and getting ideas for keywords and so forth, getting ideas for products even, or getting ideas on the best place to put your products, the best node to put your products in, as you do this, when you see that there is no item type keyword listed here, that's because this is not a node, this is a path. And so if there's no item type keyword, then ignore it. And if there is more than one item type keyword, try and incorporate both. But for the most part, as you can see, as I scroll through all of these here, you can see that there is one item type keyword for one node, and that item type keyword will not be duplicated anywhere else unless it is in the same node ID. It might have a different path, but it will be the same node everywhere. Okay. Now, about paths, just one quick thing to note. Here it says, for example, health and household, personal care, bath and bathing accessories, shower caps. Okay, your item type keyword here is shower caps. This path, of course, we have a department, which is a trunk. We have a personal care, which is your first level under that. In other words, that's going to be your category. Then you have your subcategory of bath and bathing, and then you have accessories, which is a niche. You have bathing accessories, which you could even call a sub-niche, and then shower caps is your node. In this case, this particular path is rather long, and there are a lot of other products that you're going to pick up along the way. If you get really good at shower caps, then this is going to show up in bathing accessories, it's going to show up in bath and bathing, and so forth. So this method that I'm showing you is very, very powerful because it enables you to focus in on keywords that the algorithm recognizes as being relevant, not just to the node, but to the path and every step along the way of that path. So that's why these are so much more powerful than regular keywords. All right, so the global browse tree guide here and the Amazon add products via upload widget, and then the add a product area, which also allows you here to say create a new product listing, and it'll take you to, in essence, the same thing where you can type in essence, the same information and find a category, but here it doesn't give you the item type keyword. It only just tells you what the categories are that are kind of relevant to whatever it is that you typed in. And once you choose one, let's say just I choose this one, then it's going to go into wanting me to start creating a new listing on that. So that's why I don't like using this widget. It makes me type in a bunch more information before I can even find out what that item type keyword is. But if I want the item type keyword now and I don't want to go through all of this, well, that's no problem. We'll just go through the add products via upload, which is once again on inventory, add products via upload. Type in some terms that you think are relevant to your product and start looking at the classifier and seeing which ones most closely match. If you can't find something that's close, if you can't really find what you're looking for by using this search tool right here, well, then go to the big browse tree guide, look through it, and start kind of scrolling until you find some areas that seem to be similar or close to what it is that you're looking for, and you want to choose the one that's closest to your product. You will never have a situation where you do not select a node. You must select a node. So if you have a completely new, innovative product of some kind that there's nothing else like it on Amazon, you still have to find a node that's the most closely matching, that's the most closely similar in some way, and add that item type keyword and add the product into that node when you make the listing. All right, Now that you know where to go and how to get those browse tree node item type keywords, well, now we need to learn how to leverage that so that you can choose the most advantageous node and you can learn the ITK associated with that node and move forward on to focusing on your listing. What you need to do is focus your listing around that particular node and that item type keyword that's associated with the node. Well, how do you focus your listing on that? Well, of course, you make that keyword front and center in the listing. You have it appear over and over again in the listing itself. One of the first places that you want to put it is in the title and as close to the front as possible. In fact, if you can name your product after the ITK or using the ITK, that really is a powerful way to use that ITK and make it front and center in your listing. And of course, you can also add it to the bullet points. You can add it to 1 or 2 bullet points or even more because the density matters. The more often that item type keyword appears in the listing, then the better it is, to a point. Now, you don't want to have it appear 95 times, okay? But you do want it to be the most prominent word or phrase in your listing. So you might want to add it to 1 or more of your bullet points. You almost definitely want it to be in your product description, okay? And probably several times there. And then you want to include it in places in the back end of your listing. You might include it in the generic search terms field, or you may also include it in other areas on the back end. As you look in the back end of your listing and you look at all the different places that you can type in terms and words and things, just keep in mind that you want to have that ITK prominently appear in some of those fields. Now, why is the ITK so important? Well, of course, the first thing that we realize is that A9 rewards relevance. Remember, we talked about this in some detail earlier. The A9 algorithm rewards relevance. We want the A9 algorithm to reward relevance for your product. What that means is we want your product to have the A9 algorithm look at it and go, oh, this product is relevant to the node. This product is relevant to the keyword of the node. It's a good match, okay? That ITK will help bring the maximum relevance score to your product. Yes, Amazon scores everything. The algorithm scores everything. Everything is ranked. Everything is scored. It's amazing how many things they track and score. And they score relevance and they track it. And so having your ITK front and center in your listing, like we talked about, is going to bring that maximum relevance score. And by making your product hyper relevant, like the most relevant in the node, you're in a position where you can actually dominate that node. Now, what do I mean by domination? Domination happens because your brand is hyper relevant to the node. When it's hyper relevant to the node, it will have the keyword in there, the item type keyword, maybe even in the brand name, but certainly sprinkled all over in the products that you're launching under that brand name. Now, that might be one product with several variations, or it might be several products with several variations. And as your brand grows, you want to make sure that if it's in the same node, that it has that ITK in it. And if you're going to be focusing on a particular niche or a particular node, why not try and work that ITK into your brand name? I mean, that's a pretty brilliant way to proceed. You can have that be so hyper relevant that your entire brand is seen as being the very best and most relevant one in the node. Now, of course, in addition to your brand being hyper relevant, your product can be hyper relevant, your marketing can be hyper relevant. And what we mean by that is in your sponsored ads, when you're doing your marketing, you're going to target that item type keyword as one of the primary things that you go after. Long tail, short tail, all the different ways that you go after that in your sponsored ads. And of course, in your sponsored brands as well. Because if your brand is hyper relevant and your products are hyper relevant and your marketing in your sponsored ads is, then your sponsored brands should be also focused around those same ITKs. And of course, that'll allow you to launch multiple products into that node, each one with a hyper relevant ITK as the centerpiece, as the focal point. And when you do that, each one will start to appear on page 1. Now, when you do that, you start to dominate because you're going to have your product appear over and over again. Product A, product B, product C, right down the list on page 1, because all of your products are found by the algorithm to be hyper relevant. They're served up organically higher than the other products that are in that particular node. Now, of course, this assumes a few things, right? It assumes that your product is high quality, it gets good reviews, it has great images, it has a high conversion rate, and all the other things that are important and all the other things that are necessary for you to have a great product on Amazon. But if you do all of that work and you fail to use the ITK, then it's going to be easy for somebody else to come in and kick your great listing to the side and beat you. And you do not want that to happen. You want to be the one that dominates this. You want to own that node. You want to be the most relevant. And if you can do that and have a great listing that converts well, hey, at that point, you're going to be very hard to beat. You're going to have a great position inside that node that you can dominate, and you're going to find that other people that come along later and try to launch products in there, they have a tough time because they just don't know what you know about how to use ITKs. Now, we've talked quite a bit about page 1. What is page 1? You hear that a lot, right? People say, I'm going to be on page 1 this, page 1 that. What is page 1? All right. Page 1 is the first page of organic search results, or SERP, S-E-R-P. Okay? The search engine results page, the SERP, is where the search engine results appear. And the organic searches are the ones that are not paid for, not advertised, okay? It's what Amazon's search engine is delivering as the one that they think is the most relevant and going to convert the best and sell the most when you type a keyword or a given search phrase in there, okay? So if you type in a search phrase and you see a list of search results, you might see some sponsored ads first. You might see the sponsored brands across the top first. But as you look down the page, after you run out of the sponsored stuff, you're going to see positions for the organic search results. And the first one, the second one, the third one, and so forth, those are all organic. They're not paid for. And that's where you want your product to show up. There are usually between 16 and 24, sometimes 20, but usually not fewer than 16 organic search results on page 1 for a given search that you make. Now that search could be short, like 1 word or 2 words. It could be long, like lots of words that are very highly descriptive. But whatever the search phrase is that you put in there, there's going to be organic search results that come up. Now, when you type that in, if your product shows up on page 1, on the first page, so that you don't have to click down at the bottom to go to the next page of results, then it's said to be on page 1, okay? If your product is appearing high enough that there is no scrolling necessary to get to your product, then we say that's above the fold, almost like a newspaper. For those of you millennials, a newspaper is something that old people like me used to read. And, it would show up on the front porch or whatever in the mornings, and we would go pick it up and we would read the headlines. The big things that were happening were always put above the fold, and the fold in the middle of the page, underneath the fold, or in other words, the bottom half of the page, was the less important stuff. So above the fold is the best place to be. In other words, on the page where you don't have to scroll to find it. That's the absolute best position to be in. And of course, you can buy that position using sponsored brands and sponsored ads, but organically, you can inherit that position too, and then you don't have to pay for it. That's always the best. Now, of course, people search for a given product in many different ways. They use many different search phrases. In fact, your product might appear on page 1 for a lot of different search phrases. And conversely, your product might appear on subsequent pages, page 2, 3, 4, all the way down to page 20 or worse, for a lot of different search phrases, okay? In other words, there is a page one for every search phrase. And there are hundreds of millions of page ones. In fact, it's true that there are a lot of brand new searches on Amazon every single day. Every single day, there are hundreds of thousands of new search terms that have never been searched before that have a page one created right then and there, dynamically by the A9 search algorithm. So when we say that there are hundreds of millions of page ones, that just keeps going and going and going as people search for new things every single day. So the real question is, which page ones sell the most? All right, now we're getting down to the heart of the matter. If you're going to have your product on page one, it matters which page one. Is it a page one for a search term that people search for a lot? Or is it a page one for a search term that almost nobody searches for? Or that nobody has ever searched for until now? Well, that would certainly not be a popular search term at the moment, but it might become one in the future, and that's fine. But which page ones sell the most? Well, it's going to be the page ones that contain item type keywords. If you type in an item type keyword, whatever the results that come up there, that's going to be 9 times out of 10 the page one that sells the most for your product, okay? Now, there are also going to be variations of the ITK, and I'm going to show you that here in just a minute, how those variations work. But the variations of the ITK also sell a lot, and there might be some particular variation of the ITK that outsells the primary one, but that's okay. When you do this correctly, you're going to be seen on page one for not just the ITK, but also for the variations that include the ITK itself. All right? Those variations can be what we call broad variations. They can be phrase variations, or they can be exact variations. And I have a little illustration here that I'm going to use to show you the difference between those so that you can understand what we mean when we talk about variations of the ITK. This is an illustration of a keyword example, baseball caps. Now, if you were to go in and type in the word baseball caps as a search phrase in Amazon, then that would yield a list of products that the A9 algorithm thinks are relevant to baseball caps. It would probably be a whole bunch of baseball caps, right? Because that's probably what's most relevant to that word. The products that the A9 algorithm thinks are an exact match to the word baseball caps, those will probably come up highest in the results. Okay? Now, there may also be some products that are a phrase match. Okay? The phrase match means that the term contains the exact phrase, but there's other words too. So, for example, you might have something that's added to the front or to the end of the word baseball caps. Okay, and I'm going to illustrate that in just a moment. In fact, let me make this just a little bit bigger so you can see it. There you go. Now, in addition to the phrase match, there's also broad match, and this match type gives you, as it says here in the slide, broad traffic exposure. But what it really means is that the word baseball and the word caps can appear anywhere in the search in any order, and the algorithm would still find it relevant. So caps for baseball, for example, or what you see here is discount baseball caps. Okay, that would be a broad match. Red caps for baseball. The word caps and the word baseball are not in the correct order, but it's still broadly relevant. It's a broad match. So all these kinds of matches come into play, especially when we're talking about sponsored ads and sponsored brands. And we're going to go way deeply into that another time. But today, what we really want to talk about is your understanding of the way that the A9 algorithm matches up the phrase that's searched for with the product. So here's another illustration of that. You can see that the exact match is the narrowest, smallest, most precise, most powerful way that a product can be matched to a keyword. So for example, if you're selling a baseball cap and the A9 algorithm sees that somebody types in the word baseball cap, that would be an exact match if the algorithm recognizes that you're selling exactly that product. Now, here's the fun part. If your product is in a node called baseball caps and you've used baseball cap all over the place in your listing, your product is going to be seen as the most relevant baseball cap in the baseball cap node. When somebody types in baseball cap, that exact match is going to result in your product outranking most or maybe even all of the other products that are in that node. Now, phrase match is more broad than that, and then broad match with a modifier like blue baseball cap, red caps for baseball or whatever, those are even broader, and then the broad match itself is even broader, and that means more and more and more products are going to respond to that search. There are going to be more products that the algorithm thinks is relevant to that particular search if it's a broader and broader search. So the trick is you want your product to come up on the exact match searches for the item type keyword and on the exact match searches for all of the variations of that item type keyword and all of the other types of keywords that are relevant to your product. And as the search gets more and more broad, well, hopefully your product will be the subject of the broadening of the search. So if you have a red baseball cap and somebody types in red baseball cap, well, at that point, your product will respond to red baseball cap because it is a red baseball cap. All right, so somebody might say red baseball cap for fill in a certain team name. Well, when that happens, now that's a long tail search. The match might be exact, it could be phrase, it could be broad, but what's really happening is the buyer knows exactly what they want. And if your product responds, in other words, if the algorithm has attached that phrase to your product and it sees it as being relevant, then when somebody types in a long search term like that, they know exactly what they want. Hopefully, yours will be the first one at the top of that list too. It all comes back to these item type keywords. In other words, here's your exact match, baseball cap, right? Here's your phrase match, blue baseball caps for youth. Now, again, the item type keyword here would be baseball caps. And this is a fictitious example. I'm just using this to illustrate the difference between exact and phrase and now broad match, where broad would show blue caps for youth baseball. Now, here you see that the words caps and baseball in broad match are not in the correct order and they're not together in the search. In phrase match, the word baseball and caps is together, but it also contains words like blue and youth, whereas the exact is baseball cap. If somebody just types in the word baseball cap, then boom, there's no blue, there's no youth, there's no other modifiers. The question is, will your product come up in that search as well as in the phrase and broad match searches? And the only way you can win that prize is if you are tightly focused on that item type keyword. The item type keyword is almost always the best exact match and also therefore the best for phrase and broad matches, because if your listing is focused around baseball cap, it's also going to respond to blue baseball caps for youth. And it's also going to respond to blue caps for youth baseball because baseball caps is the heart of that search. And it's what your product has been geared to respond to in the algorithm. Well, this type of a system then will capture a huge number of searches that result in displaying the products that live in that node. Okay? This one item type keyword will capture a lot of searches. It'll capture exact match, phrase match, and broad match type searches. And that will result in your product being displayed prominently in the organic search results for all of those searches. So let's take a look at this list again. It's the list that I showed you at the beginning where I said, hey, what if? Do you think that you can identify the right super keyword and build your own branded product listing around it? Well, of course. Now that you know where to look, you know how to find it, and you know what to do with it. Well, do you think now that you can get A9 to see your products as maximum relevant and to organically boost yours above others in the node? Yes, you can do that using the item type keyword like we've shown you. And can you dominate a niche by building an overwhelming presence on page 1 for your product's primary keyword? Well, the answer is yes. And you do that by building a brand with multiple products that respond to that particular item type keyword all in the same node. If you do that, you can build that overwhelming presence. Now, the key reason that this works is because Amazon's browse tree structure assigns the item type keywords to those nodes, and the products in the node need to be relevant to the node. Relevancy, of course, is determined by how closely the product is aligned with the node's item type keywords. So, if your product is 100% aligned with the item type keyword, it's seen by the algorithm as hyper relevant, more relevant than other products in the node, which are your primary competitors. When that happens, the A9 algorithm likes your product and serves it up higher in the results, and that's what you want to see happen. Now, I have another free gift for you. That is, I have gone out and individually downloaded and aggregated all of the available browse tree guides into a single huge browse tree guide. You can use that to identify potential nodes and item type keywords, particularly those that have multiple paths to get to the ITK. Now, I have made a template of that you can use. All I ask is that you make a copy of it and then use your copy. Don't try and use the original because then other people won't be able to use it if you make any changes. And, of course, we're going to put details on this in a separate post with a link to access it so that you can go get that and use it. And when you use it properly to identify the best nodes and the right item type keywords for your products, then you know what to do from there. Start building your products around those ITKs. So, here are your action items for this video. First, build your brand around item type keywords. As you start working towards building a brand out, keep them in mind. What nodes are you going to list your products in? What are the item type keywords for those nodes? And how can you make those nodes and those item type keywords relevant to your brand? Maybe in the name, but for sure in things like the packaging and the website and the descriptions that are used for your brand products. Build your products themselves, including the packaging and the documentation in them around those item type keywords as well, and focus your product listings themselves on the item type keywords. Include them prominently in your listings. Conduct your keyword research, starting with the item type keywords, and branch out from there as you're doing your research to discover the right and the most powerful generic search terms. Make sure that you conduct that research starting with those ITKs. And of course, when you have the right keywords, then you can focus your advertising on those item type keywords and all of their variations. And you can use those item type keywords in a lot of ways, okay? One of the great ways you can use them is when orchestrating your family and friends launch. In other words, have them go do a search and buy. Search for your product using the ITK, and then when they find it, buy it. That will help cement in the algorithm's mind the connection between the ITK and your products. Now, tomorrow is the biggest video of all. We've done 4 videos so far, and tomorrow we're going to really amp this thing up. You know what's better than a golden parachute? Well, here's the answer. It's the Platinum Principle. The Platinum Principle will help you stack an insane amount of value into your Amazon business. It will help you build a juggernaut so valuable that corporate suitors are going to line up at your door with huge checkbooks when you decide it's time to cash in. Now, most people make more money when they stop selling on Amazon than they did during the business building phase. In other words, most people cash out with a huge windfall, and that windfall is bigger than all the profits that they made during the years that they actually built their business. So as profitable as you think you can build your business now by having profitable products and making money, it even gets better when you start talking about building your business according to the Platinum Principle, so that when it comes time to exit, you can have a huge windfall at that point. So now when you think of Amazon and you say, well, Amazon is a river, now you're always going to remember that Amazon is also a tree. And you know what's great about trees is that they can hold hammocks. So Before we wrap this up, I'd love for you to go into the comment box below and just type in the words, "Give me a hammock." Because what we want to do is we want to relax in the hammock and realize that the tree is going to do all the work for us as we rank our products, as we figure out how to use the finest and the best keywords. We put those keywords to work and let it go do its thing. So yeah, in the comment box below, just type "Give me a hammock," and then everybody will wonder, what are we talking about, right? Of course, we'll know what we're talking about. So, all right, we'll see you in the video tomorrow.